The red sky of Nexus Prime burned with the light of 1,000 explosions. Commander Thane stood on the rocky cliff, his massive 8-foot frame casting a long shadow across the battlefield below. His silver armor gleamed despite the dust and smoke that filled the air. The Coalition forces were winning, but barely. Thane belonged to the Valkyr race, known throughout the galaxy as the greatest warriors ever born. His people were tall, muscular, with thick gray skin and eyes that glowed like blue fire. For 30 years, Thane had never lost a single battle. Other species whispered his name in respect and fear. The humans called him the Iron Mountain because nothing could move him when he decided to stand and fight. "Sir, the Scourge forces are retreating to their main base," reported Captain Vale, a young human officer. "Should we follow them?" Thane studied the enemy movements through his tactical display. The Scourge Empire had been fighting the Galactic Coalition for 5 years now. They were cruel beings who destroyed entire planets for fun. Their black ships looked like giant insects, and their soldiers wore armor that made them look like nightmares. "No," Thane said in his deep voice. "They want us to follow. It's a trap." He pointed to a narrow valley between 2 mountains. "They will ambush us there. Instead, we go around. Send the human and Nexri units to the left. The Chitani will attack from the right. I will take my strike team straight through the middle." Captain Vale looked worried. "Sir, that's very dangerous. You'll be outnumbered." Thane's blue eyes glowed brighter. "Valkyr do not run from danger, Captain. We run toward it." The attack began at sunset. Thane led his elite strike team of 12 warriors through the rocky terrain. Each member was the best fighter from their species. There was Korax, a reptilian Nexri, who could move faster than the eye could see. There was Buzz, a Chitani insect warrior, whose 4 arms could fire weapons in different directions. And there was Private Marcus Reed, the only human in the group. Marcus was 22 years old, much younger than the others. He had joined the Coalition military as a medic, but he also trained in combat. The other species often joked that humans were too weak and too emotional. But Thane had seen something special in Marcus during previous battles. The young human never gave up, no matter how bad things got. "Remember," Thane told his team as they moved through the darkness, "we hit fast and hard. Destroy their communications first, then their weapons. The main army will attack when they see our signal." The Scourge base was built into the side of a mountain. It looked like a giant metal spider with glowing red eyes. Hundreds of enemy soldiers moved around the entrance. Their weapons could cut through most armor like paper. Thane's team reached the outer wall without being seen. The Valkyr commander placed his massive hands on the metal barrier and began to bend it like it was made of soft clay. His species was incredibly strong, able to lift heavy vehicles and punch through starship walls. "Go," he whispered. The team moved into the base like shadows. Marcus stayed close to Thane, carrying medical supplies and a small plasma rifle. He watched in amazement as the great warrior fought. Thane moved like a deadly dance, his massive sword cutting through enemies before they could even scream. No weapon seemed able to hurt him. They reached the communication center without any problems. Korax used his speed to disable the guards, while Buzz destroyed the equipment with precise shots. Everything was going perfectly. "Signal the main force," Thane ordered. But as Marcus raised the signal device, alarms began to sound throughout the base. Red lights flashed everywhere. Hundreds of Scourge soldiers came running toward them. "It was a trap," Korax hissed. "They knew we were coming." Thane's eyes blazed with anger, but his voice stayed calm. "New plan. Everyone retreat to the entrance. Move now." The team fought their way back through corridors filled with enemies. Thane protected them like a living wall, his sword and strength keeping the Scourge forces back. But there were too many enemies. Soon, half the team was wounded. "Sir, we can't make it," Buzz clicked in his insect language. "There are hundreds of them." Thane looked at his team. These warriors had followed him into battle many times. They trusted him with their lives. He would not let them die because of his mistake. "You will make it," he said firmly. "I will buy you time." "Commander, no," Marcus said quickly. "We fight together or not at all." Thane smiled for the first time that day. Spoken like a true warrior, "Human, but this is not your fight anymore. It's mine." Before anyone could stop him, Thane charged back into the corridor. His massive form blocked the entire passage. The sound of his battle cry echoed through the base like thunder. His sword moved so fast it looked like silver lightning. Dozens of scourged soldiers fell before him. "Go!" he roared without looking back. The team ran toward the entrance, tears in their eyes. They could hear Thane fighting behind them, holding off an entire army by himself. Marcus kept looking back, wanting to help, but Korax pulled him forward. They were almost at the exit when the explosion happened. The sound was like the world being torn apart. A bright white light filled the corridor. Marcus felt himself thrown through the air, crashing into a wall. When the light faded, half the mountain was gone. "Neurodisruptor bomb," Buzz whispered in horror. "They destroyed their own base to stop us." Marcus ignored his broken ribs and bleeding head. He stumbled back toward where Thane had been fighting. The corridor was now a pile of rocks and twisted metal. Smoke filled the air, making it hard to breathe. "Commander!" Marcus shouted. "Thane!" "He's dead," Korax said sadly. Nothing could survive that blast. But Marcus refused to give up. He climbed over the rocks, moving pieces of metal with his bare hands. His medic training told him to look for signs of life, no matter how small. After 20 minutes of searching, he found a massive gray hand sticking out from under a fallen beam. Marcus pushed with all his strength and managed to move the metal enough to see Thane's face. The great warrior was still alive, but barely. His blue eyes were dim and unfocused. Blood covered his silver armor. But the worst part was that he wasn't moving. Not at all. Marcus quickly checked Thane's vital signs. His heart was still beating, but very weak. His breathing was shallow, and there was no response when Marcus touched his arms or legs. "I can't feel anything," Thane whispered, his voice barely audible. "My body? I can't feel my body." Marcus felt his own heart break. The neurodisruptor had damaged Thane's spine. The greatest warrior in the galaxy was paralyzed from the neck down. "It's okay," Marcus said. "Even though nothing was okay, I'm going to get you out of here." "Leave me," Thane said, closed his eyes. "A warrior who cannot fight is not a warrior at all." "That's not true," Marcus replied firmly. He began setting up an emergency medical field around Thane's body. "You're still the bravest person I know. That hasn't changed." More explosions echoed through the base. The Scourge forces were advancing again. Soon they would find the survivors. "Marcus," Korax called from the entrance. "We have to go now. The evacuation ships are leaving." Marcus looked at Thane's still form, then at the approaching enemy forces. Every logical part of his mind said to leave. Thane was too heavy to carry. He was paralyzed and might not even survive the trip. Staying meant they would probably both die. But Marcus thought about all the times Thane had protected the team. All the battles where the great warrior had put himself in danger to save others. All the times Thane had shown him kindness when other aliens treated humans like they were nothing special. "Then they leave without us," Marcus said. He activated his emergency beacon and prepared to defend his commander. "I'm not leaving him behind." Korax stared at the young human in amazement. "You'll die for him?" Marcus checked his weapon and looked at the approaching Scourge soldiers. "He would do the same for me." The last thing Thane saw before losing consciousness was Marcus Reed, a small human medic, standing guard over his broken body, while an alien army approached. No Valka warrior had ever shown such loyalty. No alien had ever risked their life for someone who could no longer fight. For the first time in his life, Thane understood why humans were different from every other species in the galaxy. They didn't abandon their friends, no matter what the cost. As darkness took him, Thane felt something he had never experienced before. Not gratitude or respect, but something deeper. Something that humans called friendship. The rescue came just in time. Coalition forces, led by the survivors of Thane's team, fought their way back into the base. They found Marcus unconscious from exhaustion, still protecting Thane's body. Both were rushed to medical ships and taken to the nearest Coalition hospital. But even as the doctors worked to save them, word of what happened began to spread. The story of the human medic who refused to abandon the paralyzed Valkyr commander. The story of loyalty that crossed species lines. It was a story that would change everything. 3 months after the disaster on Nexus Prime, Commander Thane sat in his hoverchair, staring out the window of Coalition Medical Station 7. His massive body, once able to bend steel and break stone, was now completely still. Only his head and neck could move. The hoverchair was specially built for his large Valkyr frame. It floated 3 feet off the ground and was controlled by movements of his eyes and small head gestures. It was the most advanced technology the Coalition had, but to Thane, it felt like a prison. "The doctors say your mind is completely healthy," said Dr. Kim, a middle-aged human physician. "The neural damage only affected your motor functions. Your brain, memory, and intelligence are perfect." Thane didn't respond. He watched ships landing and taking off from the station's docking bay. Each ship carried healthy soldiers going to fight new battles. Battles he would never see again. "Commander, I know this is difficult," Dr. Kim continued, "but there are treatment options we can explore. New technologies, experimental procedures." "No," Thane said quietly. His voice was still deep and strong, even if his body was not. "I have read all the medical reports. The damage is permanent." Dr. Kim looked uncomfortable. She had treated many wounded soldiers, but Thane was different. His injury wasn't just physical. For a Valkyr warrior, being unable to fight was worse than death. "The Valkyr High Command has set new orders," she said, handing him a datapad. Thane read the message with growing anger. He was being honorably retired from military service. They were giving him a small pension and transferring him to a research station in a quiet system, away from the war, away from other warriors, away from everything that had given his life meaning. "They're throwing me away," he said bitterly. "That's not how I read it," Dr. Kim replied. "They're giving you a peaceful place to recover." Thane's blue eyes flared with anger. "Doctor, you do not understand Valkyr culture. To my people, a warrior who cannot fight is not a warrior at all. They are moving me somewhere I won't embarrass them." The door to his room opened, and Private Marcus Reed walked in. The young human looked much better than he had 3 months ago. His injuries from the battle had healed, and he wore a clean Coalition uniform. But his eyes showed concern when he saw Thane's expression. "Sir, I heard about the transfer," Marcus said. "I've put in a request to be assigned to the same station." "Why?" Thane asked harshly. "Do you enjoy watching broken things?" Marcus didn't flinch. "You're not broken, sir. You're injured. There's a difference." "Is there?" Thane turned his chair to face the window again. "I cannot hold a weapon. I cannot walk. I cannot protect anyone. What am I now?" "You're still the smartest tactical mind in the Coalition," Marcus said firmly. "You're still the person who taught me how to read enemy movements. You're still the commander who never lost a battle. Past achievements mean nothing if you cannot make new ones." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that surprised Thane. "My grandfather was a soldier in an old Earth war," Marcus said. "He lost both his legs to a landmine. People told him his fighting days were over, but he became a teacher instead. He trained thousands of young soldiers. His students went on to win battles he could never fight himself." Thane considered this. Humans have strange ideas about value. Maybe, but we've learned that a person's worth isn't just about what their body can do. It's about what their mind and spirit can contribute. Before Thane could respond, the door opened again. Captain Vale entered, along with 2 other Coalition officers. They looked nervous and uncomfortable. "Commander Thane," Captain Vale said formally, "we wanted to thank you for your service and wish you well in your retirement." The word retirement hit Thane like a physical blow. He was only 50 years old, young for a Valkyr. He should have had decades of fighting left. "Thank you, Captain," Thane replied coldly. The officers left quickly, clearly uncomfortable being around him. This had been happening more and more. His former colleagues, aliens who had once sought his advice and friendship, now avoided him. They looked at him with pity or embarrassment. "They're afraid," Marcus observed after the officers left. "Of what?" "I am no threat to anyone now," They're afraid that what happened to you could happen to them. Seeing you reminds them that they're not invincible. Thane had never thought of it that way. In Valkyr culture, the weak were shunned because they brought shame to the strong. But Marcus was suggesting that other species avoided him for different reasons. Over the next few days, Thane noticed a pattern Marcus had pointed out. Nexury soldiers would change direction when they saw him coming. Chitani officers would suddenly find urgent business elsewhere when he entered a room. Even the medical staff treated him differently now, speaking to him like he was a child instead of a former commander. Only Marcus treated him the same as before. The young human would sit with him during meals, discuss military tactics, and even ask for advice about combat situations. He never acted like Thane was helpless or stupid. "Why do you do this?" Thane asked one day as Marcus helped adjust his chair settings. "Do what?" "Treat me like I'm still me." Marcus looked genuinely confused. "You are still you. Your body changed, but your mind didn't. Your personality didn't. Your experience didn't. Why would I treat you differently?" It was such a simple answer, but it shook Thane deeply. Every other alien in the Coalition saw his paralysis as the most important thing about him now. But to Marcus, it was just one small part of who he was. "In human culture," Marcus continued, "we have a saying, it's not what happens to you, it's how you respond to what happens to you. You can't control what happened on Nexus Prime, but you can control what you do next. And what would you suggest I do next?" Marcus smiled. "The same thing you've always done. Help people. Protect people. Just in a different way." That evening, Thane received a visitor that surprised him. Korax, the Nexury speed warrior from his old team, entered his room quietly. The reptilian alien looked uncomfortable, but determined. "Commander," Korax said, "I wanted to speak with you before your transfer." "About what?" "About what the human did for you." Korax's voice was serious. "In our culture, we have a concept called life debt. When someone saved your life, you owe them everything. But what Marcus did was different. He didn't just save your life. He risked his own life to save someone who could no longer be useful in battle." Thane felt a flash of anger. "You mean someone who was worthless?" "That's not what I mean," Korax said quickly. "I mean someone that any logical being would have left behind. The human chose friendship over logic, loyalty over survival. It made me think about things differently." "How so?" "Maybe we've been measuring worth wrong. Maybe strength isn't just about what you can destroy. Maybe it's also about what you choose to protect." After Korax left, Thane sat alone in his room, thinking about everything that had happened. 3 months ago, he had been the most respected warrior in the Coalition. Now, he was being quietly shuffled away to a place where he couldn't embarrass anyone. But Marcus had refused to abandon him, even when it would have been logical, safe, and easy. Thane realized that he had learned something important about humans during his time in the medical station. They were not just emotional and weak, as other species claimed. They were something else entirely. They were loyal to a degree that most aliens couldn't understand. Maybe that was why they kept winning battles against stronger, faster, smarter enemies. Maybe their strength wasn't in their bodies or their technology. Maybe it was in their refusal to leave anyone behind. For the first time since his injury, Thane felt something other than despair. He felt curious. If Marcus was right, if his mind and experience still had value, then maybe his story wasn't over. Maybe it was just beginning a new chapter. Research Station Omega-7 was located on the edge of Coalition space, orbiting a small blue star. It was a quiet place where scientists studied alien technology and military strategists planned future campaigns. For most people assigned there, it was either a peaceful retirement or a punishment detail. For Thane, it felt like exile. The station was much smaller than the medical facility. Only 50 people worked there, mostly humans and a few other species. Thane's quarters were specially modified for his hoverchair, but they still felt cramped compared to his old command ship. Marcus had been assigned as his personal aide, which meant he helped Thane with daily tasks and acted as his assistant. It was a job that most soldiers would have seen as beneath them, but Marcus seemed genuinely happy to be there. "The station commander wants to meet with you. Marcus said one morning as he helped Thane review reports on his data pad. Captain Hayes. She's human, former pilot. What does she want? I think she wants to see if you'd be interested in consulting on some tactical problems they're having. Thane felt a spark of interest, but try to hide it. I doubt my advice would be useful here. Why don't we find out? Captain Sarah Hayes was a thin woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. Her office was filled with star charts and battle reports. She stood when Thane entered, which surprised him. Most officers didn't show that level of respect anymore. Commander Thane, she said formally, it's an honor to have you on my station. Thank you, Captain, though I should point out that I am no longer commander. As far as I'm concerned, you earned that title for life. Hayes gestured to a chair across from her desk. I have a problem that I think you might be able to help with. She activated a holographic display, showing a star system with several planets. The Scourge has been attacking supply convoys in this region. We've lost 6 ships in the past month. Our tactical computers can't figure out their attack pattern. Thane studied the display carefully. His mind, still sharp despite his physical limitations, began analyzing the data. Show me the exact locations and times of each attack. For the next hour, Thane examined every detail of the Scourge raids. Marcus watched in fascination as the great tactician's mind worked. Even sitting motionless in his chair, Thane's intelligence was impressive. I see the pattern, Thane said finally. They're not just attacking supply ships. They're testing your response times. Each raid is designed to make you send your patrol ships to specific locations. They're mapping your defensive network. Captain Hayes looked surprised. Our computers didn't detect that. Computers look for obvious patterns. This is more subtle. The Scourge commander is planning something much larger. I estimate you have perhaps 2 weeks before they launch a major assault on this entire sector. Can you recommend defensive strategies? Thane's eyes lit up for the first time in months. I can do better than that. I can design a counter-trap that will destroy their entire raiding fleet. Over the next several days, Thane worked with renewed energy. He created detailed battle plans, analyzed enemy weaknesses, and designed new tactical formations. Marcus assisted by handling communications, organizing data, and making sure Thane had everything he needed. It felt good to be useful again. More than good, it felt essential. But not everyone on the station was happy about Thane's involvement. A group of Nexri officers complained that important tactical decisions were being made by a broken alien who can't even hold a weapon. The criticism came to a head during a staff meeting. Commander Vex, a proud Nexri warrior, stood up and addressed Captain Hayes directly. Captain, I must protest. This station is responsible for sector defense. We cannot trust such important matters to someone who is compromised. Compromised how? Hayes asked coolly. He is paralyzed, helpless. In my culture, we do not ask the broken to lead the whole. Thane felt a familiar sting of shame, but Marcus spoke up before he could respond. With respect, Commander Vex, Thane just identified a threat that your computers miss completely. His physical condition has nothing to do with his mental abilities. A human would say that. Vex replied dismissively, your species is weak. You make excuses for weakness. Marcus stood up slowly. Thane could see anger in the young man's eyes, but his voice remained calm. You're right that humans are weak, Marcus said. We're not as strong as Valker, not as fast as Nexri, not as smart as Chitani. But we've learned something that you apparently haven't. And what is that? That everyone has value. Everyone has something to contribute. And anyone can be a hero, regardless of what their body can or can't do. Vex laughed. Ridiculous sentiment. The weak should serve the strong, not lead them. Is that why the Nexri Empire fell to the Scourge in less than a year? Marcus asked quietly. The room went completely silent. Vex's scales turned dark red with rage. How dare you? It's true, isn't it? Marcus continued. Your people believed that physical strength was everything. So when the Scourge brought superior technology, you had no answer. You couldn't adapt because adaptation requires admitting weakness. Enough, Vex hissed. But Marcus wasn't finished. Humans win battles because we use everyone. We don't care if a soldier is tall or short, strong or weak, whole, or injured. We care about what they can contribute. That's why we've been holding our own against the scourge when supposedly superior species have fallen. Vex looked like he wanted to attack Marcus physically, but Captain Hayes intervened. That's enough from both of you, she said firmly. Commander Vex, Private Reed makes a valid point. Thane's tactical recommendations have been flawless so far. Unless you have better suggestions, we'll continue to use his expertise. After the meeting, Thane and Marcus sat alone in the station's observation lounge. Through the large windows, they could see stars and distant galaxies. You didn't need to defend me, Thane said quietly. Yes, I did. What Vex said was wrong. But it reflects how most aliens think. Perhaps they are right. Marcus turned to face him. Do you think they're right? Thane considered the question carefully. 3 months ago, I would have agreed with Vex. I believe that physical capability determined worth. But watching you, learning about human culture, I am beginning to think differently. How so? Humans see potential where other species see failure. You measure strength by different standards. When I was wounded, every alien saw a broken warrior. You saw a person who needed help. Marcus smiled. That's because we've learned something important. The strongest people aren't always the ones who can lift the most weight or move the fastest. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who keep going when everything seems hopeless. Like staying behind to help a paralyzed alien? Like figuring out how to keep fighting, even when your body won't cooperate anymore. That evening, Thane received an unexpected message on his personal communicator. It was from Buzz, the Chitani warrior from his old strike team. Commander, the insect-like alien said to the translator, I heard about your new assignment. I wanted you to know that what the human did for you has become famous among the warrior castes. Many are saying it proves that humans understand honor better than the rest of us. Thane was surprised. How do you mean? We abandon the wounded because we see them as burdens. Humans rescue the wounded because they see them as friends, which philosophy creates stronger soldiers. It was a good question. Thane thought about all the battles he had seen, all the victories and defeats. Some of the Coalition's greatest triumphs had come from humans who refused to leave anyone behind. Their weakness had somehow become a strength. Over the following days, word of Thane's tactical predictions proved accurate. The Scourge attacked exactly where and when he said they would. But Coalition forces were ready. Using Thane's counter-strategies, they destroyed the entire enemy raiding fleet, without losing a single ship. The victory made Thane feel something he hadn't experienced since his injury. Pride. Not in his physical strength, but in his mind and knowledge. For the first time, he began to understand what Marcus had been trying to tell him. His value as a person hadn't disappeared when his body stopped working. It had just changed form. Thank you, he said to Marcus that night. For what? For seeing something in me that I couldn't see in myself. Marcus smiled. That's what friends do. The word friend hit Thane with unexpected force. In Valkyr culture, friendships were based on mutual strength and shared victories. But Marcus had become his friend when he was at his weakest and most defeated. Maybe that was the real difference between humans and other species. They didn't just help you when you were strong. They helped you when you were broken, and stayed with you until you learned how to be strong again in a new way. For the first time since Nexus Prime, Thane felt hope for the future that Reed Triclawed can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Visit to consult with Thane about difficult tactical problems. His reputation as a brilliant military mind was slowly being rebuilt, even if his body remained paralyzed. On a calm Tuesday morning, everything changed. Sir, we're receiving emergency signals from multiple sectors, reported Lieutenant Chun, the station's communications officer. Her voice was tense with worry. Captain Hayes rushed to the command center, followed by Thane in his hover chair and Marcus walking beside him. The main display showed a map of Coalition space, with red warning signals flashing across dozens of systems. What's happening? Hayes demanded. Massive Scourge offensive, Captain, Chin replied. They're attacking everywhere at once. Fleet Command is calling it the largest enemy operation in 3 years. Thane studied the attack patterns with growing concern. This is coordinated, he said quietly. Every strike is designed to pull coalition forces away from key defensive positions. Sir, we're getting reports of Scourge ships approaching our sector. Another officer called out. ETA 4 hours. Hayes turned to Thane. Can we defend the station? Thane's mind raced through calculations. The station had minimal defenses, just enough to handle small raids. A full Scourge attack force would overwhelm them easily. No, he said honestly. We need to evacuate immediately. Understood. All hands, prepare for emergency evacuation. Priority goes to essential personnel and critical data. The next 2 hours were chaos. Research teams destroyed sensitive information, while technicians prepared the few transport ships available. Everyone moved with urgent purpose, knowing that death approached rapidly through space. Marcus helped pack Thane's essential equipment and personal items. Don't worry, sir. We'll be off the station in plenty of time. But Thane noticed something troubling. Marcus, look at the evacuation lists. Marcus examined the data pad Thane handed him. His face grew pale as he read the names. There's no mention of transport arrangements for you, Marcus said slowly. Check the medical evacuation protocols. Marcus scrolled through more documents. His hands began to shake slightly. Sir, the protocols state that personnel requiring special equipment or mobility assistance are... He couldn't finish the sentence. Are given lowest priority for evacuation. Thane completed. I understand. The truth was harsh but logical. Thane's hoverchair was large and heavy. It would take up space that could be used for 3 or 4 other people. In an emergency evacuation, command decisions had to be made about who could be saved most efficiently. That's not acceptable, Marcus said firmly. I'll talk to Captain Hayes. No, Thane replied. She has to make difficult choices. Saving 50 people is better than saving 1. You're not just one person. You're the best tactical mind in this sector. A tactical mind that comes in a broken package. As the evacuation continued, Thane noticed a pattern Marcus had feared. Other station personnel hurried past his quarters without stopping. Some glanced at him with sympathy, but none offered to help. Even the medical staff who had worked with him for months avoided his room. Dr. Wilson, the station's chief physician, finally came to see him. She looked uncomfortable and refused to make eye contact. Commander Thane, I need to discuss your evacuation status. I already know, Thane said calmly. There's no room for me on the transport ships. It's not personal. It's just logistics. Your chair requires special handling, and we're running out of time. I understand completely, Doctor. Thank you for being honest. Dr. Wilson left quickly, clearly relieved that Thane hadn't argued or pleaded. Through his window, Thane could see the transport ships preparing for departure. Coalition personnel ran toward them carrying bags and equipment. None of them looked back toward the station. Marcus entered the room carrying his own pack gear. Sir, I've been assigned to Transport 3. Departure in 30 minutes. Good. Stay safe, Marcus. But Marcus didn't move toward the door. Instead, he set down his bags and sat in the chair next to Thane's hoverchair. What are you doing? Thane asked. Keeping you company. Marcus, you need to get on that transport. No, I don't. Thane felt a surge of panic. This is not a debate. You have direct orders to evacuate, and I'm choosing to disobey those orders. Why? This is madness. You'll die for nothing. Marcus looked at him with calm, steady eyes. Remember what you taught me about tactical decisions? Sometimes you have to choose between following orders and doing what's right. Leaving me here is what's right. I'm one person. You have your whole life ahead of you. You saved my life on Nexus Prime. You taught me everything I know about being a soldier. You became my friend when everyone else treated me like just another human recruit. Marcus's voice grew stronger. I'm not leaving you behind. Through the window, they could see the last transport ship preparing to depart. Captain Hayes' voice echoed through the station's communication system. All personnel, final boarding call. Transport 3 departing in 5 minutes. Marcus, please, Thane said desperately. I order you to get on that ship. You're not my commanding officer anymore, remember? You're retired. This isn't funny. No, it's not. Marcus stood up and began checking the room's defensive systems. But it's what friends do. The transport ships launched just as Scourge vessels appeared on the horizon. Thane and Marcus watched from the observation deck as the Coalition ships escaped into hyperspace. They were alone on the station with a Scourge attack fleet approaching. There's still time to take an escape pod, Thane said. And leave you here? I don't think so. Marcus, I cannot protect you. I cannot even protect myself. Marcus smiled and activated the station's internal defense grid. Who says you need to protect me? Maybe I'll protect you for a change. Despite everything, Thane felt his mouth quirk upward in what might have been a smile. A human protecting a Valkyr warrior? Stranger things have happened. The first Scourge ships reached the station within an hour. Instead of immediately attacking, they surrounded the facility and began scanning it. Thane realized they wanted to capture the station intact, probably to study Coalition research. That gives us an advantage, he told Marcus. They won't use heavy weapons that might damage the computers. Can we use that somehow? Thane's tactical mind began working. Even paralyzed, even trapped, he was still a strategist. Marcus, access the station's maintenance tunnels. I have an idea. For the next 2 hours, Marcus crawled through narrow passages while Thane guided him via communicator. They worked together to reroute power systems, set up defensive barriers, and create improvised weapons from research equipment. You realize this is crazy, Marcus said as he connected explosive charges to the main power grid. Probably, Thane agreed, but if we're going to die, we might as well make it interesting. When Scourge boarding parties finally cut through the station's outer hull, they found themselves facing a maze of traps and obstacles. Every corridor had been turned into a defensive position. Emergency force fields blocked their advance, while jury-rigged plasma cannons fired from unexpected angles. Marcus moved through the station like a ghost, using service tunnels and maintenance shafts to strike at enemies and disappear. But he wasn't fighting alone. Thane coordinated every move, watching security cameras and directing Marcus to where he was needed most. 3 enemies approaching Section C. Thane reported through their comm link. Take the upper maintenance tunnel and hit them from above. Copy that. Marcus, be careful. One of them has a heavy plasma rifle. Understood. It was unlike any battle either of them had ever fought. Thane couldn't move, but his mind orchestrated their defense with brilliant precision. Marcus couldn't match the tactical genius of his friend, but his human determination and refusal to give up made him unstoppable. For 6 hours, they held off a force of 50 Scourge soldiers. The enemy, expecting easy victory, found themselves trapped in a nightmare of coordinated resistance. How is this possible? One Scourge commander transmitted to his ship. The station was supposed to be empty, but Thane and Marcus were running out of options. Their improvised weapons were breaking down, and they were nearly out of power for the defense systems. Marcus, fall back to the Central Command Center. Thane ordered, we'll make our last stand there. On my way. As Marcus reached the command center, alarms began sounding throughout the station, but these weren't Scourge alarms. They were Coalition rescue signals. What's happening? Marcus asked. Thane checked the external sensors and couldn't believe what he saw. Fleet reinforcements. 3 Coalition battleships just dropped out of hyperspace. The rescue fleet had received Thane's tactical reports about Scourge movements. His predictions had been so accurate that Fleet Command sent a strike force to investigate. They arrived just in time to find the research station under attack. Unknown defenders in Research Station Omega 7 came a transmission from the lead battleship. Identify yourselves. This is Commander Thane and Private Marcus Reed. Thane replied, We're still here. There was a long pause. Then Captain Hayes' voice came through the communicator. Thane? Marcus? How are you still alive? Long story, Captain. Could you deal with these Scourge ships first? The battle was over quickly. 3 Coalition battleships against a few Scourge raiders was hardly a fair fight. Within minutes, the enemy ships were destroyed or retreating. As rescue teams boarded the station, they found Thane and Marcus in the command center, both exhausted but smiling. The two unlikely partners had held off an entire attack force through teamwork, determination, and the simple refusal to abandon each other. "I can't believe you stayed," Captain Hayes said to Marcus. Orders were to evacuate all personnel. "Orders didn't say anything about friends," Marcus replied. Hayes looked at Thane with new respect. "Your tactical coordination was incredible. The defensive pattern you created was unlike anything I've ever seen." "I had good help," Thane said, looking at Marcus. "It seems humans make excellent partners, even for broken-down Valka warriors." As they were taken to safety, word of their defense began spreading throughout the Coalition fleet. The story of the paralyzed commander and the loyal human, who fought together against impossible odds. The story of friendship that transcended species and limitations. It was a story that would inspire the entire war effort. The news of Thane and Marcus's heroic defense spread across Coalition space like wildfire. Within days, their story was being told in military briefings, news broadcasts, and mess halls throughout the galaxy. Two beings who should have been easy victims had instead become symbols of everything the Coalition stood for. Admiral Chun, the highest-ranking officer in the Coalition fleet, personally traveled to meet with them. She was a stern woman who rarely showed emotion, but she couldn't hide her amazement at what they had accomplished. "Let me understand this correctly," she said, reviewing their after-action reports. "You two held off 50 Scourge soldiers for 6 hours using improvised weapons and tactical coordination?" "Yes, Admiral," Marcus replied, though most of the strategy came from Commander Thane. Admiral Chin looked at Thane with deep respect. "Commander, your tactical analysis predicted not only the Scourge offensive, but also their exact attack routes. Your defense of the research station showed innovation under pressure that I've rarely seen." "Thank you, Admiral. Though I should point out that none of it would have been possible without Private Reed's courage and loyalty." About that, Admiral Chun said, turning to Marcus, "Private, you directly disobeyed evacuation orders. Under normal circumstances, that would mean court-martial and imprisonment." Marcus straightened in his chair. "I understand, Admiral. I accept full responsibility for my actions. However, these were not normal circumstances. Your decision to stay saved not only Commander Thane's life, but also prevented the Scourge from capturing vital research data. The Coalition owes you a debt of gratitude." She handed Marcus a new rank insignia. "Congratulations, Sergeant Reed. Your promotion is effective immediately." Marcus looked stunned. "Thank you, Admiral." "Don't thank me yet. I have a bigger surprise for both of you." Admiral Chin activated a holographic display, showing a massive starship. "This is the CNS Defiance, our newest strategic command vessel. Thane, I'm offering you the position of Chief Tactical Advisor for the entire Coalition fleet." Thane stared at the ship in amazement. It was beautiful, sleek, and powerful, the kind of vessel he had dreamed of commanding before his injury. "Admiral, I'm honored, but I should remind you that I'm paralyzed. I cannot perform normal command duties." "Commander, you've just proven that your paralysis is irrelevant to your abilities as a tactician. The Coalition needs your mind, not your legs." "And what about Sergeant Reed?" Admiral Chin smiled. "He'll be your aide and tactical assistant. Based on your performance together, I think you work well as a team." 3 weeks later, Thane and Marcus walked the corridors of the CNS Defiance. The ship was enormous, with hulls wide enough for Thane's hoverchair and equipped with the most advanced technology in the fleet. "Hard to believe, isn't it?" Marcus said as they headed to their first staff meeting. "What part? That I'm advising the entire fleet, or that we're still alive?" "Both, I guess." The ship's crew was made up of soldiers from every Coalition species. As Thane passed, they stood at attention and saluted with genuine respect. Word of his tactical genius and heroic defense had reached everyone in the military. Commander Thane, called Captain Voss, a Nexary officer who served as the ship's security chief. "I wanted to personally thank you for your service." Thane was surprised. Most Nexaries still viewed him as weak because of his paralysis. "I don't understand, Captain." "Sir, your defense of the research station has become required study at the Coalition Military Academy. You've shown that tactical brilliance can overcome any physical limitation. As they continued to their meeting, similar encounters happened throughout the ship. Chitani engineers asked for his advice on defensive systems. Human pilots requested tactical training. Even proud Valka warriors treated him with respect instead of pity. "It's different now," Marcus observed. "They see you differently." "How do you mean?" "Before, they saw your paralysis first and you second. Now, they see your abilities first and your paralysis as just something that happened to you." The staff meeting was held in the ship's main tactical center. Dozens of officers from all coalition species gathered around a massive holographic display showing the current war situation. Admiral Chin stood at the center. "Ladies, gentlemen, and others, we face a critical moment in the war. Scourge forces have regrouped and are planning another major offensive. Intelligence suggests they're targeting Earth itself." A murmur of concern rippled through the room. Earth was a human homeworld and a symbol of coalition unity. "Commander Thane," Admiral Chin continued, "we need your assessment of enemy intentions and defensive recommendations." Thane studied the data for several minutes while the room waited in silence. His mind processed attack patterns, fleet movements, and strategic objectives with the same brilliance that had made him famous. "Admiral, the Scourge isn't planning to destroy Earth," he said finally. "They're planning to capture it." "Explain." "Look at their fleet composition. Heavy transport ships, boarding vessels, occupation forces. They want to take Earth intact and use it as a psychological weapon against the coalition. Can we stop them?" Thane's eyes blazed with determination. "Not with conventional tactics. But I have an idea that might work." Over the next hour, Thane outlined a complex battle plan that involved multiple fleet movements, coordinated strikes, and innovative use of coalition technology. Marcus assisted by operating the holographic controls and highlighting specific details. "This is incredibly risky," Admiral Chin said when he finished. "If it fails, we lose everything. If we do nothing, we lose everything anyway." Thane replied, "Admiral, sometimes the greatest victories come from the most desperate circumstances." The room fell silent as officers considered the plan. Finally, Captain Voss spoke up. "Sir, I think it's brilliant. Unconventional, but brilliant." One by one, other officers agreed. Even species that had previously doubted Thane's abilities now recognized his genius. "Very well," Admiral Chin decided. "Commander Thane, you'll coordinate the entire defense from this ship. All fleet movements will follow your tactical directions." The battle for Earth lasted 3 days. From a command center of the CNS Defiance, Thane orchestrated the movements of hundreds of ships and thousands of soldiers. Marcus served as his hands and voice, transmitting orders and coordinating communications. It was the most complex military operation in coalition history. Thane's paralyzed body never moved from his command chair, but his mind directed every aspect of the battle with incredible precision. "Nexary Fleet, execute flanking maneuver Delta 7. Thane ordered. "Chitani squadrons, begin harassment attacks on the enemy supply line. Human forces, prepare for Operation Starfall." Marcus relayed each command while monitoring dozens of status reports. "Sir, the Scourge is responding exactly as you predicted." "Good. Signal Admiral Chun to begin the final phase." The climax came when Thane ordered coalition forces to deliberately appear defeated and retreat. The Scourge fleet, thinking they had won, moved into Earth's orbital zone. That's when Thane sprang his trap. Hidden coalition forces attacked from multiple directions, while Earth's defensive platforms came online. The Scourge fleet, caught between superior forces, was destroyed almost completely. "Victory!" Marcus shouted as the last enemy ship exploded. "Sir, we won!" Throughout the command center, officers cheered and celebrated. The greatest threat to coalition space had been eliminated through brilliant tactical coordination. Admiral Chin approached Thane with tears in her eyes. "Commander, you've saved not just Earth, but the entire coalition. How could we ever thank you?" "You already have, Admiral. You gave me the chance to serve again." In the month that followed, Thane became the most famous military strategist in the galaxy. His tactics were studied at every military academy. His story inspired soldiers throughout coalition space. But the most important change was in how people viewed disability and worth. Thane's success proved that physical limitations didn't determine a person's value or potential. Other injured soldiers found new hope and new opportunities. Marcus was promoted to lieutenant and became Thane's permanent partner. Together, they continued to serve the coalition, developing new strategies and training the next generation of officers. "Do you ever regret staying behind at the research station?" Thane asked one day as they watched ships training in formation. Marcus smiled. "Never. That was the day I learned what friendship really means." "And what does it mean?" "It means you don't abandon people when they need you most. You find ways to help them be their best selves, even when they can't see it themselves." Thane nodded, understanding completely. Humans truly are remarkable. So are Valkyr warriors who never give up even when everything seems impossible. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the ships practice maneuvers that Thane had designed. Two friends who had proven that the greatest strength wasn't in muscles or weapons, but in loyalty, determination, and the refusal to leave anyone behind. Their story became legend throughout the galaxy. The paralyzed alien warrior and the human soldier who refused to abandon him. The proof that heroism comes in many forms, and that true friendship can overcome any obstacle. In the end, they had both been reborn, not as the warriors they used to be, but as the heroes they were meant to become.